Gender means it's like the identification, or like when I see you, you are a female. When I see a man, he's a male. So that's what gender is all about for me.
What kind of things that you do you think are like boyish?
Active, sporty.
Gender means what sex a person is.
How about girls? What words describe girls?
Sassy.
I think it's male or female, but there are other things too.
Right, so I see it fairly straightforwardly, and I would say it's male and female. That's it.
I think that gender isn't something that should define us. We all have different abilities and things that we're good at.
Yeah, so gender is nothing that you come with it or you are born with it, but you learn through life and through social context.
And I think it sometimes is used to control more of our behavior than we'd really like it to control.
Little girls don't always want pink, and little boys don't always relate to blue, and all the cliches that have happened over the years.
It's your decision. It's how you feel. It's your personality. That's how I view it.
Gender connects us, gender divides us, gender defines us. In the past, we've understood gender in simpler terms. 2 X chromosomes are 1, the anatomy a person is born with. But this understanding is changing. This is a story about gender and some Calgarians who are redefining what gender means.
So I'm Lynn Langell, and this is my family. This is my wife Brianne, and my son Liam, who's 13, and my daughter Tony, who's 11. And the big smile in the middle, that's me. We thankfully, inside our little family, have, cisgendered people and transgendered people and androgynous people and obviously gendered people, and we have a mix of everything. So we're like the little can of sparkles that has every color that everybody wants, because we get to show it all off.
In this family, there is more to gender identity than male or female. Brianne is transgendered, which means her gender identity does not match the sex she was born with. Lynn is cisgendered, which means her gender identity does match her sex. Their son Liam is also cisgendered. Their daughter Tony is androgynous, which means she has both male and female characteristics. At 6 years old, she decided to change her name from Kate to Tony.
Gender is not binary, which is the way most of the world sees it. They see it as you're either male or you're female. And I've seen so much that leads me to believe that gender is a spectrum.
For Brianne, coming to terms with her own gender identity has been a long process. For years, she struggled to discover who she really is.
It just sort of popped in my head, maybe I'm a girl. Maybe that's sort of why I'm unhappy. Maybe that's why I'm so, depressed and angry and all these other things.
In 1998, Brianne started her transition from male to female. She began her relationship with Lynn 9 years later. And in the summer of 2013, they were married. The couple lives in Calgary with Lynn's 2 children from a previous marriage.
When I met Tony was 5? Mm-hmm. 5. Already very androgynous, very, it was all jeans and t-shirts and nothing pink. Can't be pink.
I dress as a boy for the outside, but I am still a girl on the inside. That's just how I like it and how I am.
The day we cut all her hair off was easily the happiest day of her life, and we let the hairstylist know we want a faux hawk. And she looked at me and she goes, "Do you know what a faux hawk is?" And I'm like, "I do." And she was like, "Okay." And 3 of them, no word of a lie, 3 hairstylists, the one cutting her hair and 2 others were gathered around her, and like she cut it all with scissors first. And then she's like, she's holding the buzzer, the clippers up to Tony. She's like, "I'm going to use these now." She's like, "Uh-huh." She's like, "Come on, let's go." And they buzz her hair, and her smile is getting bigger and bigger and bigger the more hair that comes off. Like, I don't think I've ever seen her smile so big. It's ridiculous. We took so many pictures that day. Yeah, best day of her life, ever, because she could finally be her. Yeah, do you like your hair?
Yes.
Very much?
Uh-huh.
You really think you're going to keep it this way? I don't know if you are. What if we want to grow it out?
No!
Want to keep it super short?
Yes.
Yeah? Should we start calling you Katie Bear?
No.
Just Kate. Simple Kate, strong Kate.
Until I choose a name that is a boy name.
You
Just
think-
call me Kate.
Okay. Think about it. Everything around us, from the way things are marketed to us, to the way the places we purchase things are divided, to the way things are labeled. We're trained that the gender binary is all there is. But the key to that is because of this insane fear of what you can't identify, name, label, know. This insane fear of the unknown. Nobody likes gray areas. In school, sometimes, every year, we have to out ourselves to the teachers.
Yep,
Whatever new
brand new
teachers
set of
we
teachers.
we have to go and introduce our family situation. Yeah, the world becomes closed off to you.
Yeah.
Just like even in our own community, like there are places Brianna and I would never go as a couple ever.
Yeah.
Because we'd be fearing for our own safety. Because we are not identified in a positive way. It's no different for people that are androgynous, no different for people that live in that trans umbrella. It closes off entire parts of the world. It closes off parts of a city to you, where you know it's not safe to go to be yourself.
This family's day-to-day routine is like that of so many other households. The parents go to work, kids go to school, they come home and sit around the dinner table together.
That's really not good. Not during the moment of silence, I hope.
They laugh, they cry, they argue, they play. Without a doubt, they're different than some, but in most ways, they're just like any other family.
And we've been through some really good times, and we've been through some not so good times. But at the end of the day, we're there for each other.
I'm D.A. Dirks, and I'm a contract faculty member here at Mount Royal University. I teach in Gen Ed and Humanities, and I identify broadly as transgender, but then within that more specifically as genderqueer. For me, it really means that both in terms of my internal sense of who I am and my own gender identity, I don't feel male or female. And in my gender expression, I don't feel like I should have to or do want to express my gender as exclusively male or female. So I use they instead of using she, right? You would say DA. You would usually say she said this. Instead of saying that, you would say they said this, to make it clear that I don't operate within a gender binary of male or female.
Using the pronoun they can be a hard adjustment. But even if we train ourselves to use they instead of she, we still validate masculine and feminine traits in our everyday actions.
I have a friend in Chicago who needed a model for a show that he was doing. He's an architect, but he needed somebody to like dress up in this dress that he had made. And I was like, sure, I'll do it. And I'm like, I'll never walk on a catwalk again. And not thinking I'd have to wear 4-inch heels, which I've never done before or since. But So, you know, they had a professional person do my makeup. They put me in a wig, like they put me in this dress and these heels, and then some pictures ended up on Facebook. And one of my friends was like, I've never seen you look so good. And I was like, I look like a drag queen, right? Like, again, to me, this is not a way that I would ever feel comfortable looking. Like, I really felt like it was a performance and I was in this costume, not at all feeling like this was how I planned to now present myself to the world. So it was just weird, like how people will praise you or shame you based on, are you okay presenting in the gender in a certain way? The times where I feel like the most comfortable and the most me is when I'm running and I just have like a shirt or a tank top on and a pair of shorts. That's where I'm like, this is how I feel most comfortable. Because it's like, I feel strong, I feel like anybody could wear a pair of a tank top and a pair of shorts. I feel like nobody's looking at me like trying to figure out or judge me for being male or female. And that's when I feel like if I could just walk around in a tank top and shorts and a ball cap maybe, then I'd be happy, right? Because I'm not then having to like figure out how I should look or how I should present, or will people be judging me? Will people, yeah, all that stuff. I mean, I got called, in middle school, I was getting called dyke and butch. And, you know, like trying to figure out, how can I conform better? What can I do? It doesn't seem to be working. The personal piece, I think, as I said, is forming relationships and finding people who are like you, right? I mean, you can feel like a bit of a, this is kind of a goofy, but you feel like in some ways like you're a unicorn, right? You're like, look, where are the other unicorns, right? And then you see some other unicorns and it's like, oh, I'm not alone.
I'm Colton, I'm 22 years old. I identify as male, but I was born female. My mom describes me as I'm more comfortable in my own skin now, which before coming out as Colton, she said that I was very not comfortable at all with like physically, and I was very self-conscious about a lot of things, and now it's just like, you know, I'm excited to go out, I'm excited to get dressed up, I'm excited to do things. Like, I don't feel awkward when I go and get my hair cut short and stuff like that, so.
Colton was fighting for so long against everything that was female about him. But now that he's transitioned into who he really is, he says he finds it easy and comfortable to embrace his qualities that others would describe as typically female.
I have a love for pigs, like the farm animal, and I have a whole bunch of them around the house. Which is funny because usually when you buy that kind of stuff, it's pink, and everyone's like, well, that's a girl color. And I'm like, well, it's just a color, actually. So there's that. Like, I'll sit down and watch, like, I'll go to a movie or whatever, but, like, I don't really care about the movie. Like, if it's an action movie or if it's, like, romantic comedy or whatever, which a lot of people think, like, you can't watch it. It's a chick flick. It's like, why is it a chick flick? It's hilarious. Like, it doesn't have to be for just girls. So.
Colton says his family and friends, like his roommate Andy, have been incredibly supportive. They're there for him on days that are not so easy.
Trying to go out like on everyday life and be exactly who you are, but then there's still like getting like misgendered and stuff like that. That's the hardest, especially like if you're having a really bad day and then you go home or you go to the grocery store and they say like, oh, thanks, miss. And then you're like, like really, of everything today, like you couldn't have just not have called me anything. But like I've got turned down, like I was at the hockey game last weekend and they wouldn't serve me beer because they're like, this isn't you, like why are you using your sister's ID, ha ha ha, right? And they think it's a joke because, you know, or they just think that I'm like a really like butch like lesbian, which I like, there's nothing wrong with that, but at the same time it's just not who I am. So for me, like, it's huge for me to check off the male box because that's who I am and that's how I want to be seen.
As a transgendered person, the dating world can be complicated.
If I were to go and ask, like, a cisgendered female, like a straight, on a date, and then all of a sudden, like, it escalated and it came down to it, like, I kind of have some explaining to do, like, with that and stuff like that, because once I take my clothes off, it's not going to be what she expects, kind of thing, which, you know, not everyone is going to be okay with, but like I said, as long as you talk to the right people and stuff like that, like, you know, surround yourself with good people, not people that are going to put you down, so. we do live in a semi-conservative like province, I guess. So like Alberta is pretty conservative. So with it, like, you kind of take that stuff with a grain of salt, but like gender is just not black and white. It's it's a huge color spectrum if you think about it.
The gender binary is present in ways that seem small to many. Your passport, driver's license, Facebook profile. To most of us, checking off male or female is thoughtless. But what if there isn't a box that describes you? What if that box doesn't make sense to others?
So I think some of these questions are pretty easy and pretty fixable. I think some are much more like, how do we see the institution in a more broad way in terms of being inclusive? So I think there are things that can be done relatively easily. Make more gender neutral bathrooms, for example.
Identity is fluid, sexuality is fluid, and this is a thought or a realization that people are so resistant to.
Like if any form must have a gender identity on it, and maybe forms don't even need that, then to give people the option to self-identify. Like, first of all, do we need forms where you have to identify your gender? First question. Second question, then give people the opportunity to do more beyond male and female.
A cisgendered person is not necessarily normal. They're just more common to have, like, you know, their minds match their body. But at the same time, like, sometimes you don't even know. Like, you could walk down the street right now and probably bump into like 4 transgender people and you wouldn't even notice. Like, you'd have no idea, right? But I know some cisgendered people that are like totally out to lunch. So I wouldn't consider them to be a normal person. Just because but that's their normal, right? So,
you know, in my brain, I see a gender ambiguous person and I still think, oh, what's going on there? You know, man, woman, boy, girl, what's happening? So I think it's kind of hardwired into us, whether it's because of culture, whether it's biological. But I think we like to be able to understand the world in ways, and labeling helps us understand the world.
The conversation about gender has opened up. Bit by bit, life for people living outside the gender binary is getting easier, but there is still room to grow.
I wouldn't have chosen to be transgender. Like, I wouldn't have liked to have that challenge in my life. I wouldn't really have done it. Like, I'm proud of who I am, but at the same time, like, everyone would like it if it was a lot easier for them.
Changing how we approach others, even in small ways, can help us move towards acceptance.
Like, when you meet someone new, focus on their name. Who cares about their parts? Who cares about their clothes? Focus on their name. Learn their name. Not if they're a boy or girl. Learn their name and learn one thing they're passionate about. If that's what you're thinking about when you meet someone, you stop worrying about fitting them into a box. We're humans. And this need to categorize limits you. Gender is fluid, and gender is always changing and always learning, and we all have gender expression and gender identity, and it should grow. With every experience we have, it should grow. So rather than gender is, you know, the sum of your sexual parts, or gender is the identity you feel on the inside as opposed to the parts you have on the outside, it's gender is the essence of your being painted on.